it's not such a great idea to throw our kids out of the house at 18. Historically, that's not how it was done for generations. The cost of housing has far exceeded salaries and inflation and all that. There will always be a demand for experienced and talented people in any field,
100%.
even with AI.
Hey y'all, how's it going? This is the In the House podcast, and don't let your eyes deceive you. You might be thinking to yourself, who's this handsome fella sitting in front of me?
Oh my gosh.
I know the beard is gone, my hair's cut. It's kind of like Samson, right? You just lose all your strength after your hair's cut. But it is me. My name's Lonnie Armstrong, and this is Michael Stolley.
This is professional Lonnie. Professional Lonnie's
this
back.
is professional
Yeah.
Lonnie. But we have a really great episode today. We have a special guest with us. Winn Whitman is with us today, and we're going to be talking about, a little bit of your background, Winn, and then we want to talk about some of the successes and failures and lessons learned along the way, as well as we want to get your input on, generational living or multi-generational living and some design trends that you see coming up. And then the last thing that we want to hit on, if we have the time, is the wisdom economy and why expertise comes at a premium. So those are the things that we're going to talk about today. But before we do that, Michael's got something he'd like to share with us, and then we'll get right into it.
Ooh, yeah. For our
What do you
headline for this week, Lonnie and I actually met with a company called Constructed Minds, and they are developing a software tool to help architects, designers, and builders with the code compliance process. And they were in early alpha testing.
Very early.
But we got the chance to meet with them and get a little test run of their program and hear about their aspirations for it. And it uses artificial intelligence to detect in plan sets where there could be problems for code-related issues. And they're based here locally in Austin, but their goal would be to work with IRC and really all of the codes across the country. But definitely cool to see something that could be a really powerful tool for future plan development.
Yeah, and like Michael said, we got to meet with them, what was that, last week? Week before?
Last week.
And I'd say it was less of a test run and more of just an explanation as to, what the system actually does. And like Michael said, what they're working on is a program. Is it web-based? I guess it could be web-based or even
it's web-based.
like a private, your own private network. But basically, you can upload a drawing, and it'll check either an architectural plan or a structural plan against, what the state and local codes are, and then check it to see if there's any conflicts in there, and it'll highlight certain areas and say, hey, you got an issue here. At least that's how it's supposed to work in theory. So it is still in development, but it seems like it's a pretty cool idea. So I'm excited to see it. Yeah. Once they get it run. Did they give a target date on when they wanted to roll this out, or?
No, they're I feel like this AI is definitely a catchy
it is.
topic right now, and so people are really trying to push to maximize the potential of that tool. So I know they're working hard and fast on it, and we'll see when it rolls out.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. We'll be on the lookout for when that comes out. So we'll try to make that announcement as it comes. But let's dive right in. Winn, it's a pleasure to meet you in person. I've been a fan of your work from afar, and getting to see your work and just the complexity of it. It's really truly inspirational. So thank you for your time and coming on today. I wanted to really jump right in and talk about your start as a builder. That's really how you got your start, is in building, right? In construction.
It is. And you being in construction would appreciate this, but there's just something very satisfying about building something and watching the trajectory of how something develops. And for me, it started very early with furniture. And
Cool.
furniture is a great way to start into the building trades and just get an understanding of the nature of materials, fastening things, how things go together,
Yeah.
finishing things,
Yeah, that's true.
designing them for people ergonomically and aesthetically, and and the whole business of it as well. So
Right.
that was an early entree into that realm. And after I did that, then studied art history, architecture, came down to Texas, and decided to go build larger things.
Right. Yeah.
And ultimately creating, in retrospect, what seems as, some unusual homes, some unusual projects, unconventional approaches, and I like to think of them as alternate realities in some sense that I'm creating for people.
Yeah.
Not your typical, for example, a tennis court that happens to be hanging off the side of a mountain.
I've seen that. That's pretty
Or
wild.
a house that was inspired by a manta ray.
Yeah. Yep.
And slowly but surely, learning how to pull these things off. It obviously takes a team, and
Right.
assembling the right team.
It's key.
And one thing I noticed, very early on when I was designing, was that the design process was generally a lot of fun for my clients. And then when the rubber met the road and the building started,
Yeah.
that's when all the
That's when reality sets in.
problems bubbled up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's, the two obviously go hand in hand.
Sure.
And I think it's really good when architects have the experience of working on a job site and seeing how things go together rather than just strictly academic design.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's actually a good segue. We wanted to. So you're actually the are you part owner in the Intention Construction. So you do the architecture, but you also are involved on the construction side still, even to this day. So can you talk about that at all?
Yes. Wanting to have more control over the finished product, and often finding clients who would bring in wildly unqualified builders, I started to think about how I might be able to, deliver a better product for my clients and have greater control over the whole process. And so I still work with a variety of builders, qualified builders. Dalvish is a great builder. And but I also work with Intention and part owner of Intention. And this all developed out of working with them out in LA and having a great experience and really appreciating their ethos and their commitment and talent and process. And so I was getting ready to build my house in Austin, and I said, guys, would you consider building in Austin? And so they came here, built my house, worked out well.
Wow.
It was AIA Homes Tour VIP party a couple of years ago. We've been in it
Very cool.
almost 2 years, and that worked out well. And then we started building a few more for my clients, and are now slowly but surely building for other architects.
Yeah.
But myself and Joseph at Intention both have architecture degrees, architecture backgrounds, and I think that helps, definitely helps.
So that brings up the question, and we talked about this before, but why not just do a design build firm? I mean, if you're doing the design and the construction, you don't consider yourself a design build, but why not?
Mm-hmm.
I think for a couple of reasons. So one is I tried that in the past, and it's two separate skill sets and employee bases, and there's a critical mass that you have to have to operate a construction company profitably. And I just found that I couldn't do both personally, and so I'd rather partner with guys that have already figured it out and already made all the mistakes, and also to give my clients that flexibility, like, hey, you don't have to go with Intention, and we don't build in all the markets that I design in.
Right.
That makes sense.
I think that's a really great way to talk with a client about. There's an option, but take it or leave it, because you want them to be able to drive the ship, so to speak. But hey, here is something that's high quality, and for the right project, I'm sure it's a great fit.
And one of the things that I've gotten a bit more vigilant about is just not, it's fine if they don't want to use Intention, but just ensuring that they're going with a qualified builder, because a lot of clients don't, for example, understand the levels of quality in construction, all of the things that happen inside the walls that nobody sees
Absolutely.
in the end, and are yet critical to the weather tightness of the house, the performance of the house, all of these things. And we work in some markets, Lake Charles, Louisiana, Springfield, Missouri, LA, that I've had a very wide variety of builders, quality. Some have been great, some not so great. Some were great up to a certain size, and then I had a builder, for example, that was great, building a 4,000 or 5,000 square foot house. I sent him a 14,000 square foot house. It was a disaster because he couldn't scale up. He couldn't,
That's true. I have seen that also myself, is builders who that seems to be their bread and butter, is kind of like that 3,000 to 5,000 square foot home, and they can they do those excellently. They do them well, and then they try to they dig their claws into a real big project that's 15,000 square foot house, and it doesn't operate the same way. It's just not as smooth.
It's different subs.
It's completely
different systems.
It is,
And by the same token, a builder who might be able to build 100,000 square foot office building,
that's true,
can't necessarily build a 4,000 square foot house.
That's also true. Yeah, it doesn't go the other way either.
Yeah,
you would think it does. You would think, we
you
build,
just scale it down.
Yeah, you would think you can build big homes, you can build small homes too, but that's just, it's not always how it works. That's interesting because I've actually never really dove into that and thought about that, but that's absolutely spot on. Yeah. You
Okay. Sorry. So follow-up question to that. When you're with a client and you're talking with builders, what's kind of off the top, what are some key indicators that you're looking at that either, minus or negative or positive or negative of this guy, these guys are great, I have confidence in them, or, ooh, maybe we need to go a different direction?
That's good.
I think what one would first have to qualify, like, what makes a good builder.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it falls into two general categories. So one is a knowledge of building science and systems and craftsmanship, for lack of a better word.
Oh, that's a great word.
And the other is running the business of all of that.
Yeah.
And I've found that it's like two parts of the brain, and oftentimes one finds a builder that's good at one but not at the other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it, just like it takes a team to design a house, it really takes a team as a builder.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to have the people who are really good at the bookkeeping part of it,
Mm-hmm.
and the tracking of expenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the stuff that happens off-site. And then you've got to have people that have the eye to notice things on-site,
Yeah.
and manage what's happening on-site.
Mm-hmm.
So on-site and off-site.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. I mean, I think that's where, like you said, that's where some builders struggle. Is they might be really good at the execution. They execute well in the field, but the business side or even the process is lacking. So it just kind of makes the tone of the project feel kind of clunky, I think. Whereas I think most high end clients are looking for that really bespoke or next level service. I mean, it's like when you go, we talk about cars a lot too, but when you buy a Ferrari or Lamborghini or Rolls Royce, even, like, it's you're not just going in and talking to the salesman and here's your keys, send you on your way. No, it's an experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Like you are catered to. They try to make you feel welcome and that your needs are met.
Exactly.
So it's not just a transaction.
Right.
So you're not only getting an excellent product, but you're also experiencing an excellent process. So,
and I find the best builders, the greatest predictor to me of whether somebody is going to be a great builder is how they deal with people.
That's
because it's not just sticks and bricks. It's personalities. It's feelings. It's finances. It's all of the things that surround what is for many people the biggest expenditure of their lives. And being able to navigate that and manage that effectively is a superpower.
Yeah, that's true.
100%. 100%.
I wanted to go back to something you had said earlier. We were talking about design build, and you had mentioned that you tried it, and through that process you sort of discovered that it wasn't a good fit for you. What were some of the lessons learned throughout that, or even after? What made that, cemented that in your mind that said, I didn't like this experience, or this didn't, provide the quality of process that we're really looking for?
I started out doing some spec projects when I got out of architecture school. And one of them was I was able to purchase a 14,000 square foot unfinished office building on Bee Caves Road for $105,700.
Oh my gosh,
I
that
wonder
is
what that would cost
crazy.
today.
From the
10x.
Resolution Trust Corporation, which was selling off all the assets from the savings and loan crisis. And I was able to finish this building with a ragtag team of guys, many of whom I picked up at the homeless shelter.
Yeah. Anyone who could wield a hammer.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And I was out there laying block and doing all this stuff every day alongside them. And we finished it, and it went really well. I sold the building and made a good chunk of money, and I was 27 at the time. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do it again. And I did it a few times, but one project just sort of got away from me. And there was a PM that was kind of unscrupulous, that was embezzling money, and
that's not good.
And he didn't want to get found out, so his strategy was, I'll just make this thing take as long as it possibly can.
Yikes.
So maybe it'll go bankrupt or something. So
Ouch.
that was painful.
I can imagine.
After having an early success with the office building that, was a cold bucket of water in the face. I did manage to finish it, but I just realized at the end of the day, how do I want to live my life? How do I want every day to look? And for me, I don't like to sit in endless meetings and go through spreadsheets and that kind of thing. And I've been able to craft an architectural process that's very different than most architects. And this began on the tail end of that project, following the 2008 financial downturn. I had read Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week, and I approached architecture with the idea of stripping it down to what did I really need to run an architecture office on a shoestring, and how could I maximize my freedom to work from anywhere, travel. And the solution I came with was to essentially get rid of my office and employees and to create a remote office. And this was way before COVID. I was using GoToMeeting and other, video conferencing to manage a remote team of designers, and also to communicate with clients who in many cases were a state or two away.
Sure.
So that worked really well, and a lot of people, including the president of the AIA, said to me that'll never work, and some of us like to work in an office. And I get, there are advantages when you're collaborating on something to have FaceTime, and
Sure.
we certainly build that into it. So fast forward to 2020, and I thought, why don't I teach this to other architects to show them, how I was able to do this? And I created a AIA-sponsored educational program called the Self-Built Architect.
Wow.
And we taught several thousand students. Actually, this was starting in 2016, and then kind of everybody was doing it in 2020 when COVID hit. But so that was definitely a different way of doing things. And
sounds like it was pretty timely with COVID
yes.
happening you coming, creating this class a couple years before that, I mean, I think that probably paid dividends to a lot of people. Once working from home became, in some cases, a necessity, and on the back half, maybe more closer to a norm.
So I want to pause to really get some clarity. So what you're saying is you've sort of abandoned this model of like having a design studio per se, and you say you're mobile, so you're able to conduct business from anywhere. So and you're teaching that to others. You're saying, hey, you can practice architecture without the studio setting. Is that what you're getting at?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I was in Houston last week. I designed a restaurant there. I've got a house going. Met with another potential client. On the way down there, I did a 3-hour OAC meeting on a project in the car.
Wow. How do you manage all that? I mean, how are you able to drive and handle a meeting and note taking and all that? I mean, that seems like a lot.
I don't take any notes in a meeting like that. I'm just, it's just all in my head.
Okay. That's a skill.
I'm able to compartmentalize, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think everybody's different, and some people really need that community in a design office.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got a gal who's worked for me for 10 years who lives in Poland who I haven't seen in 10 years.
Really?
And she's,
that's amazing.
She's I will upload tasks in the evening, and because they're 8 hours ahead, I'll wake up in the morning and everything's done.
It's wild.
That is wild. I would have never thought about that.
That's awesome.
How have clients been receptive to this? I mean, does it kind of take them aback to hear that you don't really have a studio, or are they totally okay with this model? Or
so I do have a studio that I built on my property.
Okay.
That I meet with clients in.
Gotcha.
And so that, that's helpful.
Right, because the client still wants some FaceTime with you.
Exactly.
They want to know that you're a real person and you're not just some AI scammer. So being able to meet with them face to face, I think is important. It
is. And
Yeah.
having a nice home that I designed, I think, is also, I didn't realize how much harder it is it's essentially like trying to sell a car without having a demo model.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you're a car salesman
Yeah.
and you've got the car right there
Yeah.
and people can sit in it, touch it, feel it.
Yeah.
And so my personal home, I built not only for us to live in, my family, but also as a showroom of sorts for clients. And
That's awesome.
I even went so far as to do different finishes and different levels of, for example, my living room sliders, the frames are all buried and it's got a pedestal paver and it's all flushed out and super slick. And then rather than do that in the studio, I said, I'm going to do an exposed track here with a step down, just to show people, okay, if you want to pay this, you can get this. If you want this, you get that.
That's awesome.
I'm sure, was that an easy sell for your wife? But no, you don't understand. This is
Yeah.
this is to show clients in the future.
I
need this.
It was an easy sell in the sense that it was a detached building, and I said, honey, I'm not going to bother you. The clients can come and they meet with me. And,
that's absolutely. Well, that's awesome. I wanted to, if we can, also get into, in our conversations that we had before meeting, we were going through some things, and you know, this whole idea about, you know, the wisdom economy and how, you know, you have to pay a premium to get, you know, people's expertise. And especially in this day and age where, you know, knowledge is like, I don't even want to say knowledge, but just information is just readily available.
Information is overly available, but that discernment and that wisdom is why I think there will always be a demand for experienced and talented people in any field,
100%.
even with AI.
Yeah.
So I used AI to evaluate hypothetically the soils and the floodplain in an area in Houston that a client is considering purchasing.
Yeah.
But with the caveat, like, hey, we're going to have to double check this and look into it. But like, here's a glimpse of what we're looking at.
Right.
According to USGS maps and this and that. But knowing how to sort through all that is where the wisdom comes into play. And to be perfectly honest, I, don't think I really knew what I was doing in architecture until I was 50.
Really?
So it just takes a lot of years and a lot of, screw ups to kind of realize the right way to do things.
Yeah,
100%.
And
I've heard that said. I think we've even told clients, like, sometimes you're going to pay for our mistakes. Like, it's just the nature of what we do. Like these buildings, these homes are so custom. They're never been done before.
it's a prototype.
It is a prototype. Like, we have building principles that kind of help guide the decision-making process, but this is one-off. It's never been done before. So, yeah, there will be some mistakes made, and, you're going to have to pay for them.
Yeah.
It's, that might rub some people the wrong way, but that's the God's honest truth. I mean, we are human after all, and there's only so many things you can predict in the future, and no matter how experienced you are, there are just some things that it just happens,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's, AI is obviously a big topic these days. It's affecting, most industries. And I've heard a lot of kind of inflammatory language about, from things like we won't need architects to robots are going to build all our buildings, and to AI won't affect us at all. So there's kind of these extremes, a lot of polarized topics. And when you mentioned this wisdom economy thing, I really thought that was really insightful, because it kind of speaks a little bit to maybe kind of a both and attitude towards new tools being incorporated into our industry, which undoubtedly will happen, but the value of having experience and wisdom and how that plays into the buildings that you're making. I really thought that was really, really insightful there.
I agree. Sorry, I'm like everybody else. I'm having allergies this week, so I'm kind of coughing and clearing my throat a bit. But no, last thing I think I want to get your insight on is really, and I think we kind of touched on it earlier, but I want to bring it back and really understand the difference between a general contractor and a craftsman. In your mind, what does that mean?
A craftsman has the dexterity, the eye, the experience to create something with certain tolerances and exactitude. A general contractor is managing dozens of people of varying skills and managing equity, money, sourcing materials, figuring out who the best subcontractor is to award a specific scope of work, ensuring that there's no scope gap between one and the other, or if it is, that there's, funding for that to take care of that.
Right.
And even assuming that there's going to be, as you mentioned, some things that don't work out as planned, and how do we address those and compensate for that. So I think the role of the general contractor is like a conductor conducting an orchestra.
That's a great analogy. Yeah.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like conducting an orchestra, but like half the people don't know how to read sheet music, and a quarter of them forgot their instrument at home. Like, that's what it feels like some days.
So good.
But no, that's a great
Very
analogy.
true.
Yeah, you're like a conductor. I agree with that line of thinking. I kind of imagine a craftsman is like it's like a way of living. It's like a thought process, because you can be a craftsman, no matter what your role is, whatever your position is, you can approach it with this, craftsman like mentality, and like you said, having an eye for details, and having this attitude of service and excellence, and just always wanting to put your best forward,
Follow-up question.
Yeah.
Do you see the role of an architect more as more similar to a craftsman or a general contractor? And I might tweak that a little bit. Is the role of is an architect, is it more professional or more tradesman? Kind of.
Or artistic. I think it's all three. I think it's professional, it's tradesman, and it's artistic. It's professional in the sense of trying to have high standards and integrity and quality, and it's tradesman in terms of proficiency and skills and experience, and then it's artistry, which is kind of that magical way of thinking outside the box.
It's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. I don't think anybody could say it any better. But when it's been
there was one other thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
The generational living and design trends.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Yeah, we briefly touched on this, and one thing that I'm seeing post-COVID is this idea, maybe it's not such a great idea to throw our kids out of the house at 18.
That's interesting.
And have them go make their way in the world. And if you really look at it historically, that's not how it was done for generations. People lived close by. They might live on the property. They might build a house for that child, and that child would raise their family in that house and take care of the parents. And this is kind of something that I've seen with some of my Eastern clients, but now I'm seeing it more with just a broad swath of clients, where if they have the room on their property, they want to start thinking about, how do I ensure privacy but also connectedness, and how do we create this little oasis for our family?
Yeah.
And
well, work has really changed. When you think about the things that were driving people to that separation, right? I would say work was one of the primary ones of that. You get into the Industrial Revolution. People are coming back into cities or looking for work. And post that, you had suburban flight, but recently, because of technology and the opportunity for jobs, the kind of gig economy, the work from home. I mean, there's all those are kind of little nuggets that, from what I see, is that the work piece of that has become more flexible and allowed people to think about that. And so it's really interesting what you're saying of, hey, I'm seeing it on the design side of people are asking for this new kind of way of living. How is that affecting your designs and your conversations with clients?
One house we recently designed in Los Angeles, the owner said, I want us to have our own primary suite, and I want my son to have his on the other side of the house, and I want his to be every bit as nice as ours. And so that's one way.
Mm-hmm.
The other thought that I had when you mentioned suburban living is traditionally suburban living hasn't really afforded people that opportunity for multi-generational living, and it's almost like
small tracts of land, isolated pockets
where everything's built up to the setback lines, and there's just only one house allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're seeing, for example, City of Austin allowing ADUs to be built on the property. So that's a great way of creating that opportunity for multi-generational living on a traditional smaller residential lot. Now, when you get out into the country, again, more opportunities. Land's not as expensive per square foot, more opportunities to build, not as restrictive zoning. So I think all of those are positives. And even within urban areas, where you have like commercial buildings potentially being converted into residential, I still think there are opportunities for multi-generational living.
Yeah. I might have a different opinion on this, but I mean, I like everything that y'all have said. I do kind of agree, but I'm wondering what like the unintended consequences are of, designing or building a home in a way that sort of enables your children to never really have the need to move away and to sort of try to make it on their own, if you will. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, I don't know. When I think about my kids, like I love them to death, and I want them around me, but at the same time, like I want them to go out and experience things and try different things and be successful. But
I think it was, it was a lot easier to go out and launch a life, for lack of a better word. Like when I moved to Austin, I mean, I was renting a place in Clarksville for $300 a month.
Right.
So
that is crazy.
If you look at the sheer, the cost of housing has far exceeded salaries and inflation and all that.
That's true.
And so
it is a problem. Yeah.
It's not quite as viable for kids to, I think perhaps if they live at home longer, then they can save up money for a down payment on a home and then make the leap. But
see.
it's really tough to save up money on a home when you're spending it all on rent and utilities, and you have a roommate who you don't really like, and at that point, it might be better for parents and kids to, to live together, but obviously not in such a way that the kid is overly dependent, to do it in such a way that fosters independence. And I don't know if it's, the kid has to contribute in some way or has to go out and work every day. And
it's not just a free ride.
It's not just a,
you're not just a bum at home.
Yeah.
You still need to get out and contribute and make something of yourself. Yeah, I mean, I see that. And also the flip side of that is, I'm being put in the situation now where I get to actually go and spend some time with my parents more and live, together, basically. And so, when I look at that, it's great. They're getting older, not necessarily to the point where they need help yet, but it's always good to have the kids around grandparents.
Close enough.
And interact with grandparents.
I agree.
And the grandparents can help with childcare.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For so long, you think about, like, okay, what do Americans aspire to? What's the dream? And, having your own, basically homesteading, was such a big part of that. I'm going to move away. I'm going to make my home, And I think people still have that dream. I think, to your point, that, well, okay, as America changes, as things get, systems get more cities get more complex, more built out, older, you have rising costs that kind of are associated with that. Okay, so how does that change how people do this? And I think that a fascinating question for me is, okay, if people are going to be doing this more where it's multi-generations living on one piece of land, how does that change what the house looks like? And you mentioned in one example 2 primary suites. I think that's a great example of something that we could see more of. It's not, the house isn't constructed of one kind of main suite and then sort of these other little bedrooms that are fairly utilitarian, kind of like essentially little dorms, and then those people are kicked out. But it's a little bit more thoughtful and integrated in terms of those spaces. It could be a way that's
another thing that
I don't know.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think of when I design a house is, yes, this is the way they're going to use it now, but what about in 10 or 20 years?
True.
And what are the trends? What are the possibilities? Like in our house, I thought, well, the studio is great now, but maybe in the future I want to rent it out for a little extra income. I want to create it in such a way that I could do that. And, maybe there's a way to run a business out of there. Maybe, eventually if I needed home health care or like somebody, living, they could.
Maybe your kid could stay there.
Maybe the kid could stay there.
Yeah, that could be the move.
Yeah.
There you go. It's built right in. It's already there.
So I think flexibility, and not, I often laugh at these, every once in a while I see some kind of a house that'll last 1,000 years. And, maybe the house, maybe the frame of the house will or whatever, but how are people going to live that? It would be like you design a house that is intended for horse and buggy, and then the automobile comes along. Or,
It's tricky.
Totally, yeah.
That's true.
There's just going to be a lot of changes in people and how they live throughout the...
Yeah.
And they're talking about, robots and houses, people having their own robot. Where does that live, and how
That's
does
true.
that
My
affect?
gosh, I can't
Yeah.
even imagine. I mean, they're already, you know, developing them now, and
It's
when you
wild.
look at, you know, these humanoid robots 10 years ago, it's kind of laughable.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it's like,
You're
holy
like, whoa,
moly,
that
like,
thing's
these are
actually
pretty serious.
could
And
be
you
usable.
think about another 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, what's it going to be?
Yeah, it's
I
wild.
It's
designed
just wild.
It's crazy.
a very large, expensive house for a client recently, and they have self-driving cars and all that, and they said, I want you to create this garage so it can be turned into another room, because to their way of thinking, there was a good possibility that they weren't going to own cars in 10 or 20 years, that you were just going to call one up on your phone, it would pick you up,
Wow.
you know. And I said, well, wouldn't you still want, you know, your own car? And they didn't care about that. So
Wow.
That's
you know,
wild.
Yeah, that's a different mindset for
Yeah.
sure. But Winn, this has been great. I really I'm glad we got to touch on all these different subjects. But it
Fun
was
stuff.
an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. I think we
Loved
should
it.
try to do this again. But Winn, I appreciate your
Yeah.
time coming on and talking with us.
Thank you, Lonnie and Michael.
Thank you.